Okay.
All right. So, welcome to episode one. I'm Steve Rowe, and I got Alex here. It's co-host with
What's going
us
on?
here talking about the geocentricity and the world craziness today. So,
That's for sure.
I, yeah, so it's about 5 years now that I've been a geocentrist. I was kind of fighting against it for a while. Went to a rally, got upset at some Christians who were promoting a whole flat Earth centricity and went down that rabbit hole for a few weeks, gave it up, thought it was stupid, and then saw David Weiss's podcast and became interested again, did some research, and here I am. My eyes have been kind of open for a while. About 10 years ago, my friend introduced me to the fact that we'd never landed on the moon, and I was like, thought he was crazy. And
Mm.
yeah, I've kind of been a non-believer in NASA for a while, so it wasn't too big of a step for me when I realized the Earth wasn't a spinning ball. But
Yep.
so how did you come to this conclusion?
Man, so I was in I think it started when I was in the womb. No, no, I'm just
Wow, you started
yeah.
early.
Yeah, so
You're like,
father and
oh,
mother
this is
whispering
a
on the
bunch of
belly.
trash you're trying to hang above my crib with these planets. That's nonsense.
Man, all right, so I guess I don't know when it happened, but I know my first initial like not trusting what I was seeing on TV. I don't know if I was in middle school, but it was in the 90s. Whenever the Haiti and the hurricanes or whatever, and the Clintons are on there with the telethon, and they're like, "Oh, give us money." And I think I was in seventh grade. I'm looking, I'm like, "Screw you! I'm not giving you no money," even though I didn't have any. I didn't trust them. I thought, "Hey, you guys are scamming for some." I just felt that they were scamming. It's like,
Mhm.
nah. I don't know if I remember if I flipped off the TV. I don't remember what I did, but I knew that I didn't trust them. And I was in like seventh grade or something, or so, I think it was in 91 or something or 92. I don't know. Whenever it happened. So fast forward, um, 9/11 happens. You eat it hook, line, and sinker. You remember where you are.
Where were you at 9/11?
I was literally in my living room watching TV on my day off from community college. And then I was trying to see if I could maybe work on my English paper or whatever. And I was watching TV, and next thing you know, I'm like, "What?" Then I hear all the commotion and on the TV, like, "What the heck?" And then I was also the year before that, my uncle, I had to write a paper about politics between Gore and Bush, and I said, "Hey, you got any ways I can learn more?" And he says, "Oh yeah, listen to Sean Hannity." That's
Gosh.
that's where I got all in that mindset. So next thing you know, fast forward a year, 9/11 happens, and I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, and wasn't about to join the military or anything or that or fight, but I believed what they were saying until like maybe 2003. No, 2003, and then I talked to some guy at work, and or I heard I forget what it was. I heard someone talk about, oh, you should listen to Alex Jones or whatever, and something about Infowars and talking about now. I'm like, oh, this is crazy, whatever. And then in 2005, another friend of mine or some coworker introduced me to Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie, and that kind of like what? And then I heard this guy talking about 9/11, and I'm here at literally at my church at 1:30 in the morning on the computer after I was practicing playing drums for like 5 hours. And I'm like, what? So, all right.
All right, so the powers that be knocked us off. Talking about Alex
Yeah,
Jones, I think. No.
yeah, look at the background I got, guys.
Yeah,
Ooh,
that's how
it's
we know it
showing all
was
the
Alex Jones that
trichology.
they were not they were concerned about.
Yeah, I started bashing the Clintons there. All right. So the last thing I was saying, I'll backtrack a little bit. So Coast to Coast AM is when I got my first taste of the infamous Alex Jones. Uh, one guy at work. My first initial was like maybe a couple months before, I heard about 9/11. Like, what? That's insane. And then next time, a guy at work, dude, because that's right. We were talking about Dr. Gene Scott. he's a, he's a pastor that passed, and he's pretty controversial. He always smokes a
What's his
cigar.
name?
Dr. Gene Scott,
Okay.
and he's out of Los Angeles. And I liked him. He always talked about, he always got into the word real well. But a lot of people didn't like him. They thought he was, for whatever reason, they thought he was too hardcore. He just talked about, oh, he's always asking about money and pay this, pay that. But he got into the real root words of everything, and everything was like in Greek and Hebrew, and he just went to town. Yeah, a little unorthodox, whatever. But anyways, him and I, the guy at work, started talking about him. He's like, dude, if you like that, dude, you have to check out Coast to Coast AM. So
Okay.
that was my first introduction. I listened to Coast to Coast AM, and they had this guy, Alex Jones, talking about 9/11. I'm like, what? And then I was saying before that I was listening to this at 1:30 in the morning at my church on the computer, the youth group computer, after I played drums for like 5 hours practicing. I'm a drummer, and I was practicing for, my what I had to learn for Sunday. And I was beside myself, literally. Like I felt like I was beside myself in shock. Like, oh my God, what? So that was my second red.
What do you think of Alex Jones now? Because like he's kind of gone off the rabbit trail, I guess, a little bit now. So some of the stuff with the what is it, the shooting, the school shooting, what the heck was it? Not the Columbine. What's the other one? The one out on the east.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I can
The
speak to that because I'm in Connecticut, and I've been. A lot of people see this is what's wrong with the media. Media is gonna throw everything out of proportion and make someone look like they're insane. And the reality of it is, without getting off too topic, the reality of it is that a lot of the listeners brought up a lot of variables, a lot of things that didn't add up
right.
to him. And he say, hey, look at this, look at that, look at that. And he's like, okay, well, maybe I'll look into it. And he spent like maybe 20 minutes on it. And that was that. And then he says, I don't know, maybe that happened, maybe it didn't. It looks like it didn't, but I don't know. But then obviously people in Connecticut, because I believe a lot of people that are destroying this nation and this country live here. Notice I don't
Right.
go knocking on their door because I don't want to end up having someone come to my door. But this is just a strategy to this. I mean, I think a lot of the CIA live in Connecticut and all these things. We got Skull and Bones, Yale, all these things. So there's a lot of things. And the whole fiasco lately, the last year and a half of them trying to sue him and all this crap, it's all to make money off him and all this crap. So if people really spend the time, they realize, oh my gosh, he really didn't say what did they say that he said. So that's all
Right.
that.
Right. But
So,
he said one thing, but then he had to retract it, right? Then he
well,
retracted what he said kind of.
not necessarily. You have to kind of watch it religiously because I've been tracking. I've been here from the beginning and all this. Again, the media will twist things and say he said this and this that. Now, I can't say if it's because his lawyers were trying to say, "Hey, just say this now because then we can get out of this." I don't know, but
Yeah.
all I know is
You
that
think he's a closet flat earther?
he
People
was
say
playing.
he is.
Well, I'll get to that.
Okay.
He was playing devil's advocate on all that. So let's fast forward.
Right.
So I was hardcore, still am, Alex Jones, whatever. I've spoken to him many times, met him and all that. know some of the friends with, not personally, but I met some of the crew. I know other flat earthers. I know that some of the crew. I know David Weiss. Know some of the crew. Me personally, well, we'll get to that. So fast forward when I learned about everything, I've been was always a black sheep of the family, conspiracy theorists and all that. So the next, oh my gosh, was flat Earth, of course. But I was looking into Hollow Earth. I'm like, oh wow, Agartha and all these things. I'm like, wow, that actually looks pretty crazy.
Mhm.
I guess that makes sense. Maybe that's where all these cool aliens are coming from. And then next thing you know, I was listening to a podcast, Brendan Strokes or Brendan Stokes, whatever. And a caller came in talking about flat Earth. And he's like, oh gosh, now you guys again. And I'm like, what? People think the Earth's flat? What the heck? And then next thing you know, I ran into, like I was saying early before we started recording and stuff, I was like talking about Seventh Trumpet Preppers. He kind of, because it was biblical, I'm like, wait, what? And he talked about, did you know that these four Earths that they show for each decade are not the same? Like, what? And that kind of got me all like, what? And I looked into it and I'm like, oh my gosh. Because Seventh Trumpet Prepper was actually, I was learning about, you know, the biblical feasts and Torah and all these things. And I learned about, that actually got me to learn about scriptural feasts and all the pagan holidays and all that stuff later on through like another guy who's not a flat earther and would argue with Rob Skiba. And his name is Jim Staveley, and he went to prison. People think, oh, he scammed people. No, it wasn't really that. It was another person who got accused and then was sent to the slammer, and obviously our creator used that to preach like Paul in the when he was in the slammer. So that's another thing. But yeah, so when I finally looked into this, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. And I didn't tell anybody. I told my family more about like the pagan holidays and everything. And they're like,
Right.
oh, whatever. And I
That's
kind
a
of
hard
went,
it's a hard one to bring up to your family, that's for sure. I just
yeah, the flat
or
earth,
anybody.
yeah. I eventually told my sister, and I don't think I got to tell my mom before she passed, but um, I did. I didn't even tell my dad because who knows? Maybe later on. But my sister knows that. So fast forward now, I looked into this for 7 years. I tried to tell people at church about the pagan holidays, and then I ended up not playing drums, and they kind of ushered me out.
Oh, jeez.
And next thing you know, I played at three different churches, playing drums and stuff. And then the church I grew up in, I forgot about rehearsal, and it's after 20 years, the worship director got fed up, and they said, step down and have figure out what you want to do. I took a sabbatical, wanted to pursue music, and I guess
Was it
it's
because
kind
of
of
your
a blessing.
beliefs or something else?
No, because it was because of my tardiness, or
Oh,
I just forgot about rehearsal that night. But the thing is, I think it was a blessing in disguise because they already knew I was a conspiracy theorist at church. I even tried to wake people up about the left right paradigm against Bush and Gore, but they don't want me to pass out, stuff in people's mailboxes. So I have not told anybody about flat Earth at that church. Maybe they saw me on Facebook, but I got banned when Trump got on banned the first time. So for 7 years I was a flat earther, and then slowly dripped on people, and then started, telling people. So from 2017, I think is when I woke up to it, and then until now. So however many years that is, I would
years.
talk about flat Earth. And now it got so big, obviously, and then Jones. This is where let's go back to Jones. I talked to he had David Weiss on all these things. Either Jones is I think there's people at Infowars that are flat earthers, but they won't talk
Well, his
about it.
host wasn't his host on there. I think he was was it a co-host or something with a flat earther on there? But
Well, yeah, well, Greg Reese is a flat earther, but I because of all the attacks, like they can't keep the bills. It's hard to keep the lights on, so they have to let go a lot of people, all these things. So there's a lot of stuff involved. Now, me personally, I would like to him to finally vocalize it and maybe hopefully believe it. I mean, just today, Alex revisited, who really did 9/11, and a lot of people were calling to the show, "Oh, it's the Jews, it's all that," and he was kind of like, "Oh, whatever," because there's certain things like if you say it, then you get knocked off the air
right.
completely. So there's ways of navigating all this. Now, when I talk to Witsit, Austin Witsit gets it. I say, "Hey man," I'm like, "Really? We're at Flatoba, like really? Nobody at Infowars believes come on, man. Really?" He's like, "Yeah." So there's behind the scenes stuff.
Right.
And when Harrison Smith, they did a debate against Austin, and you know how Alex just showed up and tried to stop the debate because he knew Harrison was losing. So there's all these things. I think that if he and Sean Hibbler, they have a account on Band.video. So whatever. The Hibbler folks. So I think it's because he's probably thinks that if I go down this road and then eventually I'm like, oh my gosh, he'll lose half his audience. But I guess maybe they're trying to get to a point. I would like to see it get to such a point where the tipping point is, and
Right.
then it will be
That it's
accepted
not going to
on.
be that big of a thing. I think probably at least half of his followers are already on board, or maybe more than
Yeah,
that. He'd probably have more followers come on board if he was.
yeah, and I can see how Karen B is like, oh, I can't stand like all this crap because there's a lot of even propaganda even in the truth movement
Well, he
because the
doesn't
media.
believe in the moon landing, right? As for what I understand.
Well, well, here's what's funny. You ever play his video game that guy made for him?
No.
It's called, oh, not Info. Oh man, what is it called? It's a game that featured around Alex Jones, and oh, it's so good. It's so
Was it for
fun. It's like,
PC or what was it? Just a PC
yeah,
game?
yeah. Meet oh my gosh. It's something wars. The guy the famous guy is like, "Don't tase me, bro. Don't tase me." He created it, and he's on Lou Radowski's show sometimes as a regular, but he created the show. Infowars game or something like that. Oh, it's so good because they don't use the real names, but of people, but there's like it's not Fauci, it's something else, and it's really really good. It's a fun game. But in there, he says, I think he says the moon landing is fake in the video, and he says, "Oh, Paul McCartney died 50 years ago." Just random things like in like video games lore. It's really funny, and you wonder like, is that true? So there's so many things that they probably could talk, and maybe when they get more money, they'll probably have a segment,
When they
and
pay off their 2 billion or whatever the heck they're paying off right now to those people.
they're
Yeah.
not gonna pay that. The
The Sandy
deal
Hook people. Yeah. I mean,
the DOJ is coming up.
in my opinion, those kids are probably just adopted kids by the elite that were just staged to have this happen at that school and then brought lawsuits because like you saw how they all were at the halftime show, right? At that football game. They were all there.
I I didn't even see any of that. I've kind of stayed out of it because people just the time to like have people unlearn things and guide them back in the right direction. There's still people that I know who still believe what they saw on YouTube be raw about some people. All right, because I'm here
Yeah, you're kind of close
and
to where that happened,
I'm
allegedly
yeah. So
happened. Yeah.
I drove down to Sandy Hook. They locked it all off. I have a friend I have a friend's friend who's in the DEP, and then I have another friend who says that he knew the lady that died. I'm like, I don't know. Because I was saying I had this book called Crisis Actors and all these things. Now there's a whole this could be a whole combination of things. You know how they have synthetic terror, they have things that people really do die, but it was synthetic. It was created of something. But here's the thing. There's video that I saw that Adam Lanza is not even real. He's CGI. He's not even a real person.
There's a lot
So
of that
there's
going
that.
around. There's a lot of that.
Yeah,
And
so
even
there's that.
what the heck's his name? Stephen Hawking, remember him? Was for the last 50 years was just a CGI basically. I mean, he was a puppet. I
Oh
mean,
man,
he had what was
that,
it? The ALS, whatever he had. And like the longest lived person with his disease only lived 5 years. And like you're done after 5 years. There's no way you're living 5 years. If you're a superstar, if you live 5 years with ALS, well, he lived what, 50 years or something with that disease?
are you talking about? I always
Stephen
get
Hawking,
confused.
the guy in the
Are you
wheelchair.
talking about the guy in yeah the wheelchair? So who's the other guy that doesn't believe in God and all this stuff?
Oh,
Isn't his name another Hawking or Steve? There's
uh,
another atheist that you see it on Rob
this is a
Stevens
physicist
video.
guy, yeah. But and then his last appearance to Stephen Hawking, he was a hologram. Like he appeared the last time anybody ever saw him, he was holographed into this stadium or was it a Coliseum or wherever he was. It's like, and you look at the old videos from when he was, I don't know, 20s or something like that, totally different person. And
Hmm.
somebody, he had an interpreter next to him before he had his little computerized voice, because he always talked like, that type of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But he had that a guy who was actually interpreting everything he said. Like only this one guy could interpret him. Like nobody else could interpret what this guy was saying. You know, only
I
him.
thought it was
His
just a
special
computer.
sidekick.
Yeah, yeah, right. I thought it was his computer that was talking. That's funny.
Yeah, but anyway,
Um,
it's the
I
whole thing with that is just crazy, where they can just make a person out of thin air, and it's not
well,
even real.
yeah. But here's the kicker. Here's the other thing too. The former police commissioner from Florida came up to ask questions to the Newtown town folks and did a whole hearing and he videotaped. He was on Info. And he says he was a former high school principal as well, superintendent. And he says things don't add up. Why did they pay off the town on December 25th? Paid off all the people. There's so many holes in this story. It's insane. But every time you bring it up, people go ape because, oh, dead children. And then also, I worked at a school that was maybe 20 minutes away from Newtown. So a lot of people there are like all up wrapped up in it because they're teenagers and things like that. So of course they're gonna believe in them. How dare? And I one time there was state police that showed up at the school for like a day event or whatever, and the kids come out and check out the vehicles and stuff. And I brought up the thing you should not bring up, and the state police got very angry with me when I tried to insinuate that it was fake and stuff. Now here's the thing: why was FEMA there 2 weeks before?
Yeah,
in
they
at
show up a
Sandy
little
Hook.
early. Yeah,
At Sandy Hook. Why was FEMA there too? Oh, we know a week before Sandy Hook happened.
wasn't that the same thing kind of down in North Carolina before the storms? They were already there, like on the ground before the storms even hit. Like they
Yeah.
already knew. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. They always
And
have.
then you have the guy who claims to be a father. There was raw video on CNN. He starts getting into character and he's laughing before and then he gets into character. I'm like, what is that? And then there's a guy, I don't know if it's the guy that tried to sue like an FBI guy that sued Alex or whatever. But there's video of him on ABC acting as the father of one of the supposed dead children, and then he's in the SWAT team in another video. I'm like, what in the world is going on here?
Yeah, I've seen some of
You
those
know what I'm
actors.
saying?
Some of them. What do they call those stage actors or crisis actors? Yeah,
Crisis actor.
they've been placed in all these different places,
Yeah,
from Katrina to you know,
yeah, yeah, yeah. And the same girls and the same photo of Boston bombings and the
you
same one,
know.
and like what? it's like that's why people are like, what the heck? And then they go down these rabbit holes and they're all conspiracies or whatever. So I don't know because they show constantly. You can't even go. They bulldoze the school down. You can't even go.
Hmm.
Like they showed the children going around in a circle. First of all, if there's an active shooter, why are you gonna have the children going around a school in circles? You don't do that.
Hmm.
Then there was conflicting stories about how you get how there's protocols that you do, and everything just didn't add up. That was the other thing too. And then it's like I don't want to. There's just more stuff. Let's just fast forward to now. I don't know how many years ago. Remember, they wanted to pass gun legislation, and Obama needed something, and that's what it was. Because they didn't want, they got stricter gun laws, and that's what happened. And then
Yeah. They always get
that's what happened.
they always need a never let a good crisis go to waste, whatever they say.
Exactly. So
Just
there's all that. And then you fast forward, and I've noticed that every 10 years there's some event that happens where it shakes people's core. It's like every 10 years something happens.
so
Well, remember the
what do
swine
you think's
flu
gonna
thing?
happen out here in Iran now?
I don't know.
You
I
think
hope
it's
they
just
don't.
more what do they call it, psyops, or is this something that's gonna really go down? I was looking
Today,
today, yeah.
today I just list like right now they're saying they're going in, but now I just heard on Infowars that Nick Sorta on Twitter just got news that Iran reached out to Trump and said, "Hey, let's negotiate." He says he's gonna have him fly over. So let's see, because
Right.
I do believe that he doesn't want that to go to war over there. I think some people think that he was roped into it, and Netanyahu is so unpopular that he needs a war. Like Joe Salenti from the Trends Journal, who hasn't been on Infowars in a while. I wonder why. But he's a political atheist. He says, the Republic the Republicrats and the demo whatever he says. He says in the media is they're prostitutes, they're media prostitutes he calls them. He says when all else fails, they take you to war. So uh, and now let's circle back to what I was saying before. Alex used to say that Israel was behind 9/11. Now technically that's a loaded question. It's a loaded statement. It's not technically that, but he said it today. Netanyahu essentially ran the whole thing. And I've heard that Netanyahu is the de facto president of the United States because
Basically, I mean, it seems like
the Israel
Trump's
lobby
following
and
his
everything.
tail, you know?
Yeah, look at our dollar bill. You
Yeah.
got the star Rembrandt above our. So it's all that. There's just so many things. And then when you go down the rabbit hole with common law and everything, and maritime law and how you use words and all that, that's a whole nother animal. But it's
Yeah.
like, I
Even
think
even the whole Israel story does not make sense, I mean, when I was younger, my parents, my mom especially was, a church-going Christian, and we got to support Israel no matter what, like, come hell or high waters, and uh, and then I began to realize a few years ago, like, wait a minute, World War II is not adding up, and then we got Israel, and the funny thing about Israel is, it's Palestine before Israel, and the Rothschilds are what made Israel. Like, you're gonna tell me that a Satanist decided that Israel is going to be a country, And before that, before he chose Israel, they were looking at Uganda, they were looking at Ethiopia, like what country should we name Israel? If you go down the Uganda scheme, look it up, the Uganda scheme. So they didn't even choose Israel to be Israel first. They were like looking at Uganda to make it Israel. Then they're looking
really, I did
then
not
they're
know
looking
that.
at other countries to be Israel, like Ethiopia and all these different countries. Like, well, those are kind of hard people to take over. But Palestine's looking pretty good. That little tiny country out there in the middle of nowhere. You know. So after World War II, well, actually before World War II, during when Hitler was still in power, he was already sending, Jews down there and shiploads. And for whatever reason, after the war, they had their little narrative, and then there was, then they made it official, that they were going to make Israel a country, and even before.
1947.
Yeah, yeah. It's just, in Uganda, like they chose Uganda. They were like really bent on getting Uganda to be Israel. That was their number one
Really? I
place.
didn't know that.
There was
That's
like 13
crazy.
other countries they were looking to bring about in Israel. And after World War One, I think it was the Rothschilds or one of them were talking to the government in England, like, well, we'll help you out here, but you need to promise us that we're going to get our own little country, at the end of it. Like, we want to make a country and just ship all the Jews or, Yiddish Jews, whatever you want to call them. Like,
Hmm.
so, but they didn't fulfill the promise. So they had the Second World War. And after that, they got to fulfill their promise. They're like, oh, there's already Jews down there that Hitler was sending down to Palestine. We'll just keep on going with that. And and the
It's
people that were there already in Israel are like, wait a minute, these are the Jews, these are the Hebrews, these are the people that are because they don't look like the ones that were here before, and the people that were here before.
right. Are you
So
sure these aren't Khazarians? What? Like, what's going on here?
yeah,
It's
and
like,
and you got the Jewish language, it's a whole nother rabbit hole, but you got the whole, Hebrew language, which is like the new Hebrew language, isn't the original ancient Hebrew language. And the letter J in particular was the Yiddish made up letter. No other language had a J, just Yiddish. And now, like, you got Jews with a J, Jesus with a J, all these important letter words.
hmm.
It's crazy. Oh, yeah. Running out of time again? What does that mean?
How much time we got?
It didn't really say. It said you're running out of time. You need to upgrade to 2.0, whatever that means. How many? Yeah.
My friend has upgraded to the other one. It's
I'm gonna have to
game
upgrade. I don't know
changer.
how many minutes this gives me.
We probably got 5 minutes.
5 minutes. But yeah,
So,
that's
did you
kind
want
of
to like do like a half an hour on these
yeah.
episodes? Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that and then pick it up again next week. But back to the whole flat Earth. It's kind of a slow thing with me. It took me a couple of years to come around with the flat Earth, though, because that was a hard one. Like, but it makes a lot of sense. I used to get into arguments with my friend when I was a kid, about the stars, and he was an atheist and I was a Christian, and trying to defend Christianity when you're playing on their field, in a globe,
Hmm.
it's a little bit difficult when they can make up the rules
No,
they want and you just are kind of stuck with their rules.
yeah, flat Earth is the new that's the new break free of your chains, man. And it goes from there. There's more stuff.
I mean, in the
Yeah.
Bible, being when I was probably, I was raised Christian, and the Bible didn't make sense, reading it. I'm like, I guess I'll go with that, like stars fall into the earth.
Yeah,
I saw
right?
them all, I guess. Every eye
Yeah.
shall see Christ on a ball. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I try to tell these there's this meme that I would share. It's somebody that just drew like of all these quotes in scripture, but they drew it out. I'm like,
Yeah,
does this make sense or does this make sense? I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. But you
But,
talk to the Pentecostals, that have
yeah.
been in school their whole life for sermon school, whatever, the scholar, all getting all their scholarships and getting
Hmm.
versed in their narrative, and you can't pull them out of that. It's just
No. And you gotta like obviously you
I
pray
actually got
and you just,
excommunicated from one church from that. So
oh my gosh. Well, hey, it was a blessing in disguise, right?
yeah,
Because they what is it? You dust the foot, you kick the dust off your feet, and you move on because
shake it off your feet up. All
yeah,
right, well, it's a good meeting you. I have to set up another day and time and
yeah,
there.
this is
It's
good.
to push somehow figure out how to merge these two videos together since we kind of got cut off there in the middle, but
Hey, we was off the cuff, right?
yep.
Cool.
Alrighty. We'll see you next week then, maybe, or whenever you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right on.
All right. Take care,
All
Alex.
right, all right, Steven.
Bye.
Pleasure.
Bye. Yeah.
Catch
Bye.
you later.
Bye.